god, all these tooltips. Like, seriously, do I need to have a tutorial every single time? Hey, what's up? I'm trying to do most of the annoying busy work here before the stream actually starts, so people don't have to sit through a bunch of insipid technical startup, but despite my best efforts, it's not quite as straightforward as I thought it would be. So here we are once again. Alright, that was pretty fast. That was like less than 20 seconds, I'd say. So here I am on Plain Plains, and I'm about to check out the world map. Yeah, so this is my second stream of 2023. How's everybody doing out there today? I find it incredibly challenging to stream, like just get up the motivation. Like it used to be so straightforward and easy. But I am still kind of recovering from what was almost a 2-year kind of near-death experience, I would say, is probably the best way to characterize it without adding any additional details. The more mysterious, the better, right? So yeah, it's amazing how much time it can take to unfold and unpack and heal from psychological trauma. I mean, I thought initially I was in shock, you know, for so long. For probably about a year, just of shock and terror. I didn't realize I was in shock. I mean, that's one of the weird, almost magical things about shock. This is kind of cool. I have no idea what this is, but very intriguing structure. Some kind of gaming center. Lots of traffic. Not intrigued enough to go there. As you guys know, that's not really my cup of tea. I sort of prefer private single sims. Alright, let's try Lexa. This one looks kind of interesting. I'm gonna pick a good insertion point here. No valid parcel. Classic. Island of Pain. I don't know, that does not sound like a place that I would want to visit. I'm kind of on the outer rim, the fringes here. So, oh, this looks intriguing. It looks kind of a little bit like Ahern. Eggarta? I don't know, that could be like a green sim. No access, that's fine. Today might be like the opposite of last week or whenever that was stream, which was just smooth as silk. Alright. As if Neotoy's streams were ever smooth as silk. Alright, actually got access to this one. Silent Waters. Alright, so far so good, and really good luck. Neotoy rezzed right in a duck pond, so, you know, true to form, he's getting the swimming out of his system early on. Oh, this is cozy as hell. Oh, is that a beehive? So yeah, anyway, one of the beautiful things about shock is it basically turns off your ability to detect when you're experiencing shock, and it's only after the fact, when you've had a chance to survive the horrific circumstances that you've been thrown into, that you're like, oh yeah, I was in shock. That's why I didn't realize that I was in shock. So yeah, that was kind of my experience. Oh, those are really cute ducks. Very detailed and Nice sound effects, little ducklings swimming along. Adorable. Great job on the sounds. We get a multi-mesh here. That's cool. So yeah, I don't know when it was exactly that I realized that I was coming out of that, but fairly recently. And I was just like, wow, I was in shock. Like low level, you know, it kind of tapered off. It wasn't as extreme as the ground zero, you know, 0 day advent, but this is a nice little weenie roast. I would definitely help myself to some of those sausages. Slice of chocolate cake. Yeah, this is totally one of those like super cozy sims. It's just one of Second Life's many faces, one that is actually becoming more and more appealing to me by the day. It's sort of like a wish fulfillment where you are living out your greatest fantasy. I don't know, that's kind of like, in a way, if you read about the metaverse and like Neil Stephenson and what his original kind of vision was, which I've read a little bit of, yeah, I would say that was definitely a component. Which reminds me, I just read an article this morning about Snow Crash, and it was an interview with Neil Stephenson talking about the original metaverse. I just realized I should probably check to see if the stream is actually working. Nice. The bitrate's not great, but whatever. At least it's working. Well, that's tasteful. Yeah. Neil Stephenson, originally his inspiration, and this is so freaking weird, but also very on brand. His inspiration for Snow Crash was the Apple like guidelines, design guidelines for interoperability and universality, I guess you would say, of America. Fuck yeah. Of all of the like first generation, well, maybe not first generation, but like the more rich apps for Macintosh. Back in the day, they were called programs. Trying to get rid of this. There we go. So yeah, kind of, I mean, interesting. First of all, major kudos. I gotta give credit where credit is due to Apple to decide and be ambitious enough to draft visionary guidelines for what was essentially a unified user experience. So this is like a common practice nowadays with all of the main manufacturers or giant web corporations like Google, for example. You know, when they came out with material design spec, and there was a huge hubbub about that, and God, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot here. It's pretty articulate and the landscaping is great, but other than that, it's like pretty minimal sim, actually. I think I've already seen everything, but nice job. Definitely a sweet little chill spot if you ever want to visit this sim. Here's the SL URL down in the chat. Yeah, okay. Oh, come on. Jesus Christ. Got such bad lag on my operating system. I don't know what happened. Like, I had a hard driver crash the other day. I think my video driver. And ever since then, like, I restarted and everything. My GUI just seems to be a little, like, sluggish. Yeah, there's like a few milliseconds delay on every action. not much I can do about it since I've already tried restarting. I might update my drivers at some point. Might fix it. That's cool, a sim that's in the shape of a paw print. Pristine coast. Alright, I'm down. Alright, oh, that's some really nice architecture there. Anyway, what was I going on about? Jesus. Can't even remember. This looks like a landing point. Maybe. I know that's where I clicked. So yeah, basically as advertised, this is a pristine beach resort type sim. I guess I kind of knew that going in. I could almost tell just from the thumbnail. Well, this is interesting. Oh yeah, Neil Stephenson, Apple, Google. That's what I was talking about. Yeah, so I mean the idea behind it is so simple. It's kind of like, why wouldn't you think of this immediately? Like, obviously, if you're gonna have a user interface, I mean, this is true in physical production and stuff in general. There's guidelines so that people don't have to guess, like, what does this button do? You know, it just makes sense to publish some kind of guidelines for developers, manufacturers, people who are going to extend and build upon the platform to design their modules so that they're in some way universally. God, I'm having trouble finding my words today. Universally coordinated with the creator so that people can tell what buttons and levers and whatnot are going to do reliably. I mean, the important part is that it's true across platforms. Nice elephants. Or it's true across apps. So like, you know, if Google releases an app and then some random person on the internet releases an app, they both have similar defining interface elements that behave predictably and are located in the same place. Try out the Jungle Oasis Club here. I mean, the really weird and hilarious thing, well, I guess it's not that weird or hilarious, you know, the more I think about it, but pretty small dance floor here. But it's that people frequently do not follow these guidelines at all. I don't know what's funnier, when people follow them, or when they don't follow them, or when they do follow them, because in both instances the results can be kind of hilarious, and I will try to elaborate upon that, as abstract and chaotic as my thinking is this morning. Yeah, so like it's really hilarious to me when an app developer like follows a guideline, like for example Google's material design, and it just looks kind of ridiculous because the guidelines themselves are kind of arbitrary, as material design was. Right? The sim was kind of very eerily identical to the last sim in the sense that there wasn't a whole lot going on. It looks like maybe it's still in progress and they haven't quite decided what direction they're gonna take with it, or like they haven't opened it officially to the public yet. I'm gonna try to pick something more busy and dynamic here. It's interesting, in this particular zone there seems to be a lot of sims that kind of fall into the same category, in this section of the world map, which is actually this sort of west edge, middle west edge, basically. I tend to gravitate towards the side, I don't know why. Probably has to do with my dominant hand. Oh, that one's kind of cool. It's got a old English character on it. Man, lots of advertising here. Anaraku-kyo. That's intriguing. Let's see if I can go here. Teleporter spot on the bottom of the ocean. I don't know. Should I just fly out? I kind of think I just want to fly out. Who knows where that teleporter goes? I suppose I could have just walked out. Oh, this is a really cool looking sim so far. I just love the fusion of like, what just happened? Of like Asian traditional design and like more modern cyberpunk. Very actually on topic with the is that like a hot dog boat? Oh no, it's a sushi boat. That's so cool. Online on brand with the it's like I'm getting a phone call. Shit. Alright. On brand with the cyberpunk stuff I was talking about earlier. This is really cool. I love these details. Wow. Like a ride a barrel, or I know you probably ride on these creatures, I would imagine. Turtle, pufferfish, mini sub, and whale. That's cool. I wonder who made this. Loki. Loki, of course. Should have recognized. I really like the... Oh, this is a whole integrated thing, but I like this floating platform too. Loki's style is so distinctive. I'm just jumping all over today. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I'm just gonna do the SLURL right away because the sim definitely seems worth the trouble to me. Uh-oh. What's going on? Just kind of locked up there. It's a cool robot. Yeah, I don't know. I should probably pick a topic today instead of just babbling about every random thing that pops into my head. I don't know. That kind of is my brand, though. Yeah, look at all those businessmen rushing over to the noodle shack. Something big up in the sky too. I guess ramen shack is probably a better term. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I want to talk more about Google's material design aesthetic. I mean, they had a great idea, which was, you know, to create a sort of unified physics-based aesthetic for developers to copy voluntarily to create like logos and whatnot. But I mean, just looking at it a little more critically or analytically, it's kind of clear that it was really just a copy of sort of an older level of intelligence that was far more grounded, rational, and just better. Like, for example, Apple's, design guidelines, which were just more like low level and less kind of abstract. Like, that's the problem with these like new generation tech companies, whether it's Google or Facebook or whoever. The truth is, um, they're they're just kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. It's really nuanced, but basically, this is a nice build. There's a lot of little intricate little areas in here. Or that doesn't seem to go anywhere. I mean, I would say entitled is definitely a word that would come to mind. Like, I mean, essentially, second generation internet companies, they kind of like, they didn't have to start from the bottom, they didn't have to work their way up. They weren't like hard wiring and soldering circuit boards. I mean, some of them were, admittedly, and they definitely probably did that when they went to universities, MIT and whatnot. But that's a whole different level of rigor and intellectual exercise than what like the engineers and electricians, or I don't know what the proper term would be for, but like the first generation creators, you know, like uh, Steve Jobs and Wozniak, like literally building computers from scratch in a garage. It's become like a valorized fantasy now when we talk about stuff like this. Like, it's just like, I guess that's a no click fridge. Or I'm just missing the targets because my frame rate's so slow. Yeah, it's I don't know, the nostalgia, the level of nostalgia that's been put or embedded into this romanticized version of the advent of the computer revolution is kind of the modern computer revolution, I should say, since there was a lot going on even before, like Apple and the graphical user interface. But I don't know, the bottom line, the point I'm trying to make is that, like, that was real work. That was the real deal. It was gritty and speculative, and there was no guarantee of success. And now with these like second generation IT kind of computer and web companies, they had all of that stuff handed to them on a silver platter. It was like already there, the way it was already paved, and they were building kind of on layer 2, like this more abstracted software layer, and the hardware basically was just an appliance that they could plug everything together like Legos. They weren't like building the Legos. They weren't like casting the Legos, out of plastic in a mold and then building whatever they were building. The legendary Japanese convenience store. Such a staple of urban living. Wow, this is actually a really great job on the props. I mean, these 2D sprites are kind of weak, but everything else is like really impressive. Like, there's a lot of elements like these racks and stuff. This is amazing. So yeah, and economically they came in with like just ridiculous amounts of capital because of all the wealth that had been created by the initial modern computer revolution. So they were just kind of entitled, I think. And because of that, there's a shallowness and a superficialness to all of the things that they do and create. It's subtle. I'm not saying it's like a deal breaker. I mean, in some cases it is, but in general, it's not. It's just kind of like a glaze on top of, or a veneer on top of the underbelly of the machine. So, I mean, ultimately, in my mind, the bottom line there is that the legitimacy of the guidelines and stuff that are produced by those 2.0 entities is questionable a lot of the times, and it's just not nearly as coherent or legitimate ultimately as the first generation. And that's just because of, once again, physics, and I talk about this a lot, but I really think it's true. There's something about like first principles and the grittiness and the connection to the material reality. Those dancers are pretty cool. Like, that physical connection really, like, not only does it add something, but it really engenders something into the products and into the people themselves. Just like a characteristic, an affinity, a connection between them and the technology that gives them almost like a sixth sense, or like a, yeah, I don't know, it just makes sense to me. It's very straightforward. It's like the closer you are connected to something, the more you're going to have a relationship with it on some level. I love these cats. I like that they're angry. That like adds something to it to me. Like they're angry cat deities. These are beautiful, beautiful sculptures too. Great job on the textures. Like a Shinto Nikko shrine up here. This sim is amazing, honestly. Yeah, so when Google came out with like material design, like I was just as excited as everybody else. I was like, this is so cool. Like Google, this big, super influential company, is trying to replicate on some level what the first generation companies did, which was release these useful, authoritative guidelines that would hopefully inspire developers and everyone to kind of get on the same page, all for the benefit of the user, because having an interoperable universal experience is a huge asset to anyone, whether you're a developer or a user. It's like a Japanese ghost story here. But just like with the dictionary definition of Chrome, like it was kind of just surface deep, superficial, like this all flash and less substance. Not no substance. There were definitely some good ideas, but not enough to really like inspire loyalty and allegiance to the design aesthetic. These are cool bridges. Beautiful work, actually. Really good job on the enamel highlights and stuff, and that's baked in. That's not materials either. I love this aesthetic personally. So yeah, like I mean, a lot of companies, and that was what I was talking about. The funny part, what made it funny to me, is so many companies and developers like immediately latched on to materials design. even though like its most fundamental iconic characteristic, sort of like signature, was that like almost bleak kind of like shadow shadow directional shadow of logos, like really iconic, that you just immediately would see that and be like, oh yeah, that's Google's material design. Like so many companies copied it, but it turned out like it really wasn't that great. It just like the ideas behind it were good, but the result just it was too homogenous. I mean, really, I think if you wanted to narrow things down to a single problem, obviously, if you're designing a logo or whatever, you want to be able to, exercise your graphical dynamicism to its highest degree, so that you can, get people's attention and establish a distinctive brand. And you can't do that if you're following somebody else's design aesthetic, no matter how interoperable that makes your product. It ultimately is self-defeating, and like it took people a while to figure that out. Some people. It's just kind of weird that like there's this learning curve to all this stuff. No matter how big you are, no matter how intelligent, no matter how massive your market cap is, these little like wrinkles in the process, they come up and they need to be, flattened out over time through trial and error and direct experience. And that's just like the nature of cute cats. Good stretch. Good stretch. That's what we always say to our cats when they're doing this. God, there's a lot of cats. This is kind of like a cat island in Japan. If you haven't heard of this, look it up. There's like a cat island where it's just completely full of cats. Of course, everyone knows about like the cat cafes and stuff that were really popular in Japan. So yeah, that was the group of people who immediately jumped on the bandwagon and were like, yes, material design, this is the new paradigm. We're gonna all subscribe to this. Everybody's logo is gonna be the same. Thank you, oh great, wise, and merciful Google. May your success rain down upon us as well. And then there were the people who just like, whether they were clueless or whatever, immediately just like rejected it or ignored it and did their own thing, as always. I guess I kind of did that with my app. I mean, I trialed out a logo using Google Material Design just for kicks, and I never actually put it into production. So like one piece characters. Kind of cool little diorama here. That's the guy who has the 3 swords. Holds one in his mouth. This is a cool sim. I like that there's a teleporter network too. I haven't used it, but yeah, I'm kind of curious to see if there's anything in here. But yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, I think that was the right response, and the community eventually acknowledged and established that pretty clearly, because at the end of the day, like, no matter how talented a company is, no matter how many geniuses are working for that company, nobody and no entity is ever going to be wise enough to dictate a universal design language for everyone to follow. That's just not realistic, which is interesting. And I think if anything, that's the biggest, most salient and useful bit of insight that can be gleaned from that whole experience, at least for me. Is somebody actually building things in real time here? I don't know. And conversely, if there was ever any legitimacy to a universal design language or success, I think it would come from it being like kind of at the advent of a language or a product, kind of like with the first generation of computers, modern computing, or alternately, and not alternately, and the other side of that is that it's not overly specific or extensive, or this is hard to put into words. Basically, it's got to be low level. So, in the case of like defining the locations of critical interface elements, like on an operating system, essentially kind of what Apple did with their guidelines. Basically, things were not so evolved that they had the luxury of defining an entire visual vocabulary. They were just working with the basic building blocks. So, I mean, in one sense, they were kind of lucky that everything just kind of came together organically like it should have, and they never were tempted to go even farther to the point where they were defining every little detail of how things should work and look. I mean, Google didn't exactly go that far. I'm being a little too aggressive here. Oh wow, this cyber castle is awesome. I want to explore that next. This sim is just full of stuff. It's really like a feast. And samurai battle going on here. That's cool. I like how all the prop avatars they picked are like from all kinds of different canons, like anime characters and 80s video games and God knows what else, just like the entire catalog of Second Life effigies. Oh, the bathhouse. Oh, it's the ladies' bathhouse. I don't know, I'm tempted to go in here. I know it's got both. It's got a male and a female side. Let's see if I can actually walk in. Alright, I will go through the appropriate doorway. In every anime I've ever seen, practically, with a bath, there's always a scene where they're trying to peek over the wall and see into the girl's bath. Thank you very much. It's kind of ironic that I was just in a bathhouse and Neotoy did not get in the water. What a rebel. Alright, it's time to explore the cyber castle. Or maybe I should explore this first. There's even an elevator up there. It looks like a dance floor. I'll try this first. God, I just want to go inside. Wow, this is a very elaborate elevator. I like the sound effects. Tight. Alright. There's only 2 floors. Nice. Good user interface there. I love love working elevators. Oh my god. Kind of a rarity in Second Life. But wow, that was a nice elevator. So yeah, this is, wow, a cool stage. Like a custom stage. I gotta say, I'm really impressed with the scope and vision of the sim. It's like great. It's like really well thought out, like all the different zones. They have like a kind of a historic district, and then the modern district, and the stage floating up here, and then that like cool cyber castle that's pretty exciting. Good use of the prop characters to just make things seem a little less sterile and unvisited. Oh cool, a zither. Really some nice instruments. Not playable though, apparently. Alright, maybe time to explore the main attraction over here. Basically, it seems like flying or a teleporter is the best way to get up there. And there's still so many areas on the ground to explore that I didn't even get close to. Yeah, innocence and arrogance kind of go hand in hand, don't they? It's like a lot of times people are arrogant because they're innocent, which is a really interesting phenomenon. And you kind of have to screw up and get smacked down a bunch. Maybe that's sort of the secret to why those first generation pioneers were so much more like, I don't know, they just had more depth to them because of how many times they must have failed on a very low, gritty, and painful level, you know? People nowadays, like, failure is not as common because of all those failures of the past. It's, in a way, it's like a collective sort of, you know, learning process. Wow, Colonel Sanders, right? He's like, KFC is like really big in Japan, isn't it? He's like the Santa of Japan. I think I read that recently. It's cool that you can, there's stairs and an elevator, like you can take either route. That's kind of cool. Oh, that was a slow crawl. I should have taken the elevator, although it probably would have taken just as long actually. This is like just a multi-tier mall, which is a really cool concept. I think there are a few malls in Japan that are like this, that are actually vertically oriented, like shopping centers. I know there's one like really famous one right in Shinjuku, I think. That's cool. Little like cargo robot. That's awesome. That's like their own custom, or branded at least. Cool view up here. I'm surprised like Mount Fuji. Oh, maybe that's Mount Fuji right there. It's not rezzing though for some reason. Kmart. Do they have Kmart in Japan? So I think, yeah, the less failure you've experienced in general, the more arrogant you are. And arrogance is just blinding, really. And if you're innocent and arrogant, you're kind of doubly blind. God, is there anything inside this? All the shops are just built on the outside. Yeah, it's just like a huge stack of like mainstream fast food restaurants, basically. Well, there might be something going on in the basement. I'm definitely gonna take a look. This is the coolest side, has all the Japanese restaurants. Man, what a lot of work. Someone really put a lot of time and effort into the sim. We got the Mecha Bay hanger. I think I've seen this one actually before. It's like a prefab. A pretty decent prefab. Let's see if there's anything behind this door. Probably not. Ugh. Oh, cool. Huh. Connects to the bay on the other side, but I can't seem to... Oh, there we go. Okay. So the bay goes all the way through the whole building. That's kind of a neat touch. Yeah, once again, like I said, this is a very well composed sim. Like a train station down here. And just more cafes, yeah. Very consumption oriented, as you would expect from a shopping center. Yeah, so the basement really is just kind of similar to a train station, but it's really just more of a extended mall. What this is. It's like a cell for the misbehaving children or something. Yeah, I really thought there'd be something more down there, but I mean there's so much already just in the whole sim. It might be close to the build limit. Alright, what did I miss? If anything. This looks interesting. Looks like there's some kind of animatronic thing. Are these otters? Like adorable little otters? Doing sumo? And dancing? Interesting. Just never know what you're gonna find when you slip in through a crack. Yeah, personally, I think guidelines, as long as they're low level, as I mentioned before, are awesome. I think there needs to be more of that, and I love it when people adhere to those guidelines to make it easier for me as a user to recognize design elements and, you know what's gonna happen when I click on a button. But it's definitely a compromise because you do lose some latitude and originality. Although I think that's always going to exist, honestly. Like, no matter what, there's always going to be people who are either clueless or rebellious towards guidelines, and they're going to go off and do their own individual thing and innovate, and the side effects of that will be that it will be A, confusing to a lot of people, but B, it's going to add new vocabulary, to the total language, and you can't have innovation continuing without growth of the vocabulary. I mean, you can't you can't get improvements unless you allow for a certain degree of flexibility in design. So that's kind of the pitfall there, and as long as, oh cool, it's a little ride. That's what that goes through there. I'm kind of intrigued. I'm just gonna try this out. Go through the shooting gallery here. Alright, let's get this party started. Starting in 5 seconds. Alright, I think first person's the best way to view this. Man, this was a lot of work. Pretty cool. Do I have some kind of a gun? It seems like I have something here. Oh yeah, Pokeballs. Oh my god, hilarious. So like, nice. Oh, you get points? Damn. That's a fun little mini game, which I just utterly failed because I didn't know what to do. I'm still failing. Man, this is a lot harder than it looks. Haha. Oh man. There we go. I got him. Ugh. Admittedly, as abstract and awkward as this is, it's pretty fun. Apparently they don't go through solid walls. Well, that's that. Let's see how I scored. 6 points. Oh my god. Horrible, horrible. That was pretty fun though. Alright, I think I've done everything that I can do on this sim. And I actually have some other stuff to do today, so I hope everyone enjoyed the stream. Thanks for coming by, New Bling and whoever else dropped by, and yeah, no promises. I'm never gonna say I'm gonna stream or not stream ever again because I think it just causes problems.